When Joseph Smith and polygamy are discussed, the debate usually starts with conclusions. Today, I want to start somewhere else. I want to start with a quote and follow it backward through history. No theology, no assumptions, just the documentation. This quotation comes from this correspondence between Joseph F. Smith Jr. and Richard Evans, where they discuss blood atonement and the origin of plural marriage. Our focus today will be on the origin of plural marriage and a specific quote that Joseph F. Smith attributes to Joseph Smith. Gave instructions to try those persons who were preaching, teaching, or practicing the doctrine of plurality of wives. For according to the law, I hold the keys of this power in the last days, for there's never but one on earth at a time on whom this power and its keys are conferred. And I have constantly said, no man shall have but one wife at a time, unless the Lord directs otherwise. You'll note here that Joseph F. Smith claims that this is genuine. The same wording appears in the printed history of the church, which for decades was treated as an authoritative source on Joseph Smith's teachings. However, in recent years, academic historians and the Joseph Smith Papers Project have made something clear. History of the church is not considered a valid standalone source. Why? Because it is a compiled, edited narrative produced after Joseph Smith's death using drafts, rewrites, and later editorial decisions. As a result, serious scholarship now requires that the sources behind the history of the church be checked before any quotation is treated as definitive, so that's exactly what we're going to do. Behind the printed history of the church is the manuscript history, preserved today in the Joseph Smith Papers. When we look there, we find the same wording again, so at this stage of the document chain, nothing appears different. But the manuscript history points us to something earlier still, the history draft. This is where we can see how the text was actually formed. In the history draft, the passage appears in a more direct form. Joseph forbids the practice, no man shall have but one wife. But then we see revisions taking place. Words are added, clarifying phrases are inserted, and in the margin there's a handwritten note that reads, "To be revised." This shows us something important. The wording found in the history of the church did not appear fully formed. It went through a process of revision and expansion before publication. So now we move to the final and earliest source, Joseph Smith's own journal entry. Joseph Smith's journal entry for October 5th, 1843, kept by his clerk, records the event plainly. After addressing those who were preaching plural marriage, the entry concludes with these words: Joseph forbids it, and the practice thereof. No man shall have but one wife. There are no qualifiers here, no conditional language, no exceptions mentioned. Just a clear disciplinary statement recorded at the time. We don't know what Joseph F. Smith was looking at when he declared that this statement was genuine, but the reality is that it is not. It was posthumously edited and published with its alterations in the history of the church and is not authentic. Some researchers and scholars have defended this alteration, saying it's okay because they were taking the words of Joseph Smith and adding them to Joseph Smith. There is no place in academia for posthumous alterations of journals being published and presented as the original content, which the history of the church does. This has no place in academia. Anyone defending this does not understand scholarly pursuit. Join us next time where we discover what Joseph Smith did have to say about polygamy and monogamy.